I love the customized gear. Dude, I'm so far behind. Like, I haven't posted last week's session. I've had it up. I've had it in mid editing phase. I've had it, almost posted and then not posted because I wanted it to be perfect. Every time I do that, I screw up because I think that, I should add a little editing spin to it, and then it takes me forever to post it, and then I don't, and then I have a really busy week like I did this week, and a really busy day, and I'm like, all right, I'll get it posted today. But long story short, I'll be working all weekend, making sure I get that up, and then making sure I get this up, and making sure there's no more excuses. So,
oh, good, man.
Yeah.
Life happens. But yeah, dude, I figured I got this, I found this in my closet. My company gave it to me, and I didn't wear it because it has a big freaking logo right here. And they get enough advertising. They don't need me to be a fucking NASCAR for them. So I rebranded it.
I like it.
Let's go.
Yeah, every single week, here we are, Left Coast Caveman, supreme being through modern hunting and gathering. Gathering what? Fitness modalities, nutritional modalities, and mentalities. So I have, I was thinking about today because, we were texting back and forth about, man, I just got off the road. I was crazy day. Thinking about Left Coast Caveman and our long-term projects, and thinking about, like, all right, it's one thing to have an educational platform where people can come and get nutritional modalities, fitness modalities, and mentalities for your better well-being. But taking it the next level would be events or some kind of sessions or seminars or things of that nature that people could come and get an immersive experience. Well, I had my first little taste this week in the events business. And let me tell you that if in the events business, anything that can go wrong does go wrong. And that's been my experience of today, is just everything then now coming down to the last minute, and everything that I've tried to do this week to make sure that everything went well tumbled down in front of me today. And eventually it came down to the fact that, okay, I got everything squared away, I got everything done that I needed to get done. But events, when there's a big event going on, which is where I'm at right now down in LA, and I'll be down in LA all weekend just there's an event today, there was an event tomorrow, and the next day, and then on Monday. But man, getting everything teed up to make sure that the event kicked off well today, maybe definitely second guess what I'm getting into the events business. Things go wrong. Everything goes wrong.
That's okay, Mark. We can always outsource those responsibilities, just show up for the fun stuff.
Well, that's the thing, though, is that if the people that are around you that aren't as invested in the thing going well as you are, they're okay with things going wrong. Oh, yeah, that stuff won't show up until Tuesday. Wrong answer. It needs to show up today or tomorrow. And the problem with that is you have to make things happen yourself. So I'm going to shut this door behind me so it's not so I got some background noise, but I'll be right back. I didn't have a chance to, well, I shouldn't say I didn't have a chance to, owning up to the fact that I didn't do as much research as I should have done on the three-piece topic that we have this week, the joint formulas. I didn't get a chance to go to the vitamin shop and study on some of the joint formulas, but I did have a good experience from what I sent you this week in terms of experimenting a little bit with the injuries that I've been messing with, which, I haven't been able to work out that much with the elbow injury and the knee injury. But, I was able to play around a little bit with a bit of a nutritional modality for joints. And you saw that image that I sent you of the tea that I made.
Yeah, it looked like a matcha almost.
It was kind of like a matcha, but it was, I'll post it at leftcoastcaveman.com. It was like a traditionally made masala chai tea but it was made with turmeric tea instead of chai. Some turmeric tea that I had sourced from a organic supply. It's like a small format supply, like tea supplier that I found in Sedona, Arizona. But I used turmeric tea and a variety of other herbs, let's say, in this supplement that I made.
Some California legal herbs, I'll bet.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, man, like I overdid it a little bit. But I'll post the process at leftcoastcaveman.com, and I'll call it turmeric machala, or like turmeric masala tea for joints. Joint could be a pun there, but I'm telling you, man, like so basically what I did, I took this turmeric tea, I put some herbs in it, I put some honey in it, some organic, locally made honey. And the process is really interesting because I don't know where I learned this process, but essentially like with most teas you would put, it comes in a tea bag, right? And you would steep it in hot water. Well, this is a totally different process. You take all of the herbs that you want to put into a tea and you put it into, I poured like half and half in a pot because it's high in fat, right? Or you can make it with whole milk, or I'm thinking about different modalities that I could use. Like maybe I could do, instead of, if you're dairy sensitive or something like that, or you don't care for half and half or milk or something like that, put it in like a tea with MCT oil or coconut oil. But essentially it's you do it in a high fat because like the THC in herb is supposed to somehow like ride with the fat that's in
yeah,
half and half, something like that. Yeah,
fat solubility.
Solubility. Okay, there you go.
A lot of vitamins are fat soluble, like A, D, E, K. So many times when you take those type of vitamins, you want to include like a fat source. That's why they'll say like eat it with a meal. And I'm sorry, real quick to interrupt. That was one of the questions somebody asked recently, was why do vitamins like hurt on an empty stomach? And that's likely one of those reasons why, is because like you want to take it with like these nutrients, these macronutrients that will help it get to where it needs to get into your body.
Interesting. We'll have to revisit that or touch base on that. And let's say that today is just going to be a free flow session. We good with that?
Yeah, always, man. I mean, it usually flows a bit anyways, right? So that's kind of par for course.
It always flows, but nutritional modality, being that we were focusing on anti-inflammation this week and joint health, particularly turmeric, and let's say maybe some THC, CBD. I was doing a lot of like CBD throughout the week in order to try to manage joint pain without taking like anti-inflammatories or Advil, Tylenol, anything like that. I tend to steer away from that. So trying to go the more holistic health route, I made this tincture or this tea, and I did it in the authentic style, which is instead of steeping it with tea bags, doing it where I put the turmeric and some herbal supplements in a pot of half and half, and you boil it over. Like when you boil something over and it bubbles up, boil it over and then let it cool down. Boil it over, let it cool down, mix it, boil it over, let it cool down like 3 or 4 times, and then strain it into a cup. And I thought, okay, great. Drank a full cup of that, and let me tell you, man, like no joint pain whatsoever for about 3 days. And but that day sort of ending up on another planet.
Yeah. Do you know how many milligrams you might have imbibed?
It felt like a solid 50.
Oh no.
Solid 50.
Oh no, dude, you were on the 10th planet perhaps.
It did, but then so and let's just say that's way too much. But And then gave it a rest for a day, and then started taking it in this just shot form, like a shot format. And the shot format seemed to work. Like I've been able to just take a shot maybe a day and not feel any effects of the THC, but also over the course of several days, the joint pain seems to have subsided, but still not able to lift or do any kind of like strength exercises. My knee is fine now, but the elbow is still having some challenges. But it seems like, I don't know if it's the turmeric, and we know that turmeric has been known to reduce inflammation. Without doing anything else, the turmeric, in taking a shot of that every single day, has seemed to really help. So I started that on Monday, and now here it is Friday, and I don't have any joint pain whatsoever, but I'm not able to do any kind of strength exercises yet, but feel like going into next week I'll be better. So definitely there's something to be said about the turmeric and its healing properties, and just keeping with the Left Coast Caveman way of life, borrowing from ancient traditions, trying to do something like an ancient tea, but the Left Coast also just implementing modern technology. Well, here you have a little bit of CBD or strain, or if you're sensitive to THC, maybe just doing CBD. You can find CBD oil that you can put in there, and maybe that's the fat soluble that you could use in that to help make it more bioavailable to your body, or help lubricate the joints or whatever. I'm not really sure. I didn't dive deep. I think that maybe we, for the sake of next Friday, get a little bit further into the science of it. But I can tell you just anecdotally, clearly some healing going on with the joints as a result of the turmeric tea.
Yeah, I'll bet it's a mix of all those items. I mean, you just essentially took a shot of just high anti-inflammation substances, right? So we know the benefits of obviously turmeric, and maybe adding a little pepper. I heard pepper is good for helping the turmeric absorb as well, kind of like vitamin C with that collagen. But then you got the THC and the CBD, which verdict's out a little bit on that one for me. I mean, I've tried doing the CBD by itself. I've never noticed any difference, but obviously you combine it with the THC, and I think that's where you got some magic. And I don't know of any research that supports like which one's better for anti-inflammation, but my understanding is like the THC does help like unlock something to where like them working together has a synergistic effect. I don't know. I'm just speaking bro science at this point, but I think there's something to it. I've never got relief with just CBD, but you add a little THC into the mix, and I think you got something special. And you doing that all week, and I imagine you were probably on some sort of recovery protocol where you probably weren't jamming out 1,000 bicep curls. So you're probably allowing your body to heal up while you're imbibing it, taking shots throughout the day of this anti-inflammation concoction. Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, really resting quite a bit, but I don't know, what have you found? Is there anything that you found in your research this week in that genre?
Well, I think we were talking more about like pull-ups and such about, is it bad to lock out? So that's kind of more what I was looking into. But
the fitness modality?
Yeah, because I know you're a fan of the pull-up. I'm a fan of the pull-up. I think it's one of those amazing body weight exercises all should be doing at some point in their fitness modality throughout the week, or periodization schedule. And I didn't do a lot of concrete research, but I did a lot of deep thinking about it, and thinking about, because I think initially you talked that maybe it's bad and not natural to hang all locked out, and then all of a sudden you're going to just start slamming pull-ups from a locked out position. Because that does seem kind of unnatural. And if you think about many of the things you do throughout the day, if you're going to lift something, and let's keep in mind, this is something I neglected also, is that a pull-up is like a maximal strength type exercise. Okay, and it varies for all people, but generally speaking, a pull-up is difficult. Most people, untrained or moderately trained, probably can't get out there and bust out 10 in a row, right? So maybe, I think most of the population falls, especially the lesser trained, maybe they can do 4, maybe they can do 6. I mean, me with strict form, I'm more of like I could probably get 10 the first rep, but like even so, that's a heavy exercise, right? And then you do the next set, maybe you get 8. So thinking about the pull-up just in itself, that's a heavy. So if you're doing those all the time, you're constantly doing maximal strength type exercises. Well, that in itself could lead to some degradation, some overtraining. So And I've been definitely increasing that, doing a lot of park workouts with my son. I'm thinking like, well, maybe it's not that the hanging straight. Now we know the benefits of hanging, just like a dead hang for your shoulder and whatnot. But I don't suspect it's so much. And maybe that's a good rule for many times. It's maybe not the exercise. Maybe it's how you're doing it. Maybe it's, is it too much strain? How are you training? Are you overusing certain muscle groups, prioritizing like synergist muscle groups as opposed to like your prime movers, like your back and such? So thinking about, are you using too much shoulder in that movement? Are you too far forward? So I think there's, specifically one thing that I caught, and I think I'm definitely I made this mistake is, you think about Arnold Schwarzenegger, they called him the Oak, and he was known for doing these really wide pull-ups, right? Well, think about those wide pull-ups. And when I say wide, let's say, your grip is slightly wider than your shoulders, you put a lot more stress on your elbows. It turns out more so. And I started thinking about that. I like to do wide pull-ups. I don't know about you. It just feels like you're doing a better job, right? Like it feels like the harder one. It's the one you should be doing. You take the uphill road. Maybe that's a part of the problem also. So you combine a lot of those things together, and before you know it, you're going to vilify a certain exercise and say, oh, it must be the exercise. It's definitely not me. And so I think that was something I was kind of, as I was thinking through it, I was kind of solving a problem on my own. So that's kind of my thought on it, checking your form, and sure. And the other piece to it that I thought was really interesting, it could lead us to a whole other conversation as well, is, I think many of us start out hitting the weights and we kind of follow bodybuilding type exercise, like informationals, right? We read books, and I mean, one of the books, I don't have it in here, but I don't. I want to know who's got it actually. Think about it. I have the Arnold Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, right? And I think a lot of people
got that. I've seen you reference that before.
Yeah, somewhere. Anyways, and so a lot of times you think that like with bodybuilding, and you get this mantra in your head that everything you do has to be 90 degrees. Like at all times, if you're doing a military press, 90 degrees. You're doing a bench press, 90 degrees. A pull-up, 90 degrees. And that's possibly not like the best route to take. And especially like I was doing some research on like, the standard bench press. And when you do it that way, you put way more pressure on your shoulder, and you're actually not using your prime mover, which is supposed to be your chest, as much. So with like a bench press, for instance, you don't want to be 90 degrees in. You want to almost like, so you think about your shoulders and such, you want to be maybe like below, like sub 90 degrees. So maybe like 70, 60 degrees. And it's going to vary from person to person. So I think the heuristic there is just, you don't necessarily need to be at 90 degrees. And in fact, that might actually put more strain on these smaller muscle groups. Because you think about, one, how delicate your shoulder group is, right? It's a very mobile joint. So it doesn't have as many safety mechanisms in it to allow for more mobility and stuff for like throwing and such like that, as opposed to like your hip, which doesn't have as much mobility. Same thing with like your knee. So it's a highly, I would say, sensitive joint. And then you add a bunch of weight to it, and then you put it in this weird position that's really not natural. Can you think about how many times in your day or throughout like any sport you like assume the 90 degree position? Probably never. Fair? Not often.
Yeah. I mean, you're not consciously trying to.
Right. And you just, if you weren't even thinking about it, you wouldn't do that, right? But because you've been trained in all the great ways to bodybuild and lift weights, and you would probably think that 90 degrees, and I've thought this for years, that's probably the safest way to do it. But in fact, that might actually be causing you more injury. So, take lesser of a degree. And I think with the pull-ups, a little easier, as you're not going to be as 90 degree on that, but just keep it about, and your shoulders be a little bit forward like that. So I think a good rule of thumb is your hands be about shoulder width apart to maximize the ability for you to use primarily use your back muscles, but also like alleviate some strain that might be put on like your elbows. And that's kind of a bit of problem area for me specifically, is elbows with pull-ups. Yeah.
Well, I would say a cave implementation, combining both the fitness modality and the nutritional modality would be, we definitely we're proponents of intense exercise.
Yeah.
And the fitness modality, par for the course of being somebody who's we're aging. You're never getting younger. You're always getting older. And then you want to stay active, and you want to stay fit, and you want to continue doing these exercises. And so the nutritional modality is important. And I think part of what I've noticed this week is that there are nutritional modalities that are proven to benefit inflammation. Turmeric is one of those ones that that seem to be at the pinnacle of that. I'm sure there's other ones out there that we could explore, but being mindful of those things and integrating those. I mean, for a cave implementation, it would be mindful of the things that are proven beneficial for anti-inflammation. I know that certain mushrooms have anti-inflammatory properties, so taking like a mushroom complex or something like that. But turmeric tea is one that's easy, and that's accessible. You can go to any Sprouts or any Whole Foods or even probably any grocery store and peruse the tea aisle and integrate that into your nutritional modality quite easily. Like a daily turmeric tea would be I think an easy implementation of this to get a powerful anti-inflammatory into your nutritional regimen, like every single day. It's easy to do. It's something that I've neglected over time, and I realize, oh well, now I'm starting to have pain in my joints. Why? And then just 1 week of implementing a turmeric tincture. I mean, it's a little bit more involved than just a turmeric tea, but still, I mean, an easy place to start would be a turmeric tea. Pick it up at the grocery aisle. We'll post them at our product reviews at leftcoastcaveman.com, some turmeric teas that we would consider cave approved. But turmeric's an easy one, I think, to start with because it's proven, it's in keeping with ancient nutritional modalities, and it's easily accessible to anybody. You can go and pick up a turmeric tea just about anywhere. So starting to integrate that daily, every other day, at minimum once a week, let's say. But being mindful of those things that are readily available in nature that reduce inflammation would be a good start.
Yeah. And then I love the saying, if you've ever had like a GT kombucha, which you can find the GT kombuchas with turmeric. A lot of times they have the turmeric in there as well. Like there's a great deal of ready to drink beverages out there that will come preloaded with it. And one of the sayings on the one that I like their mushroom kombuchas, which I think are really great.
Elixir?
What's that?
The one elixir that you always saying?
Yeah, and it's the saying on the side of the bottle. It's a really great slogan. It says, "Let food be thy medicine." And so you think about turmeric and like how you can allow. I mean, you don't even have to supplement with it. I mean, one of the things that I was doing long time ago, and I probably should try it again, is I used to buy the big tubs of turmeric you can get from Costco. And I actually just like put that into like a beverage in the morning. And I don't know why I've stopped doing it. Maybe I should revisit, because every morning we've also discussed at great length before, and you can find it on Left Coast Caveman Nutrition page, benefits of collagen, right? We talk about collagen protein and supplementing with that. And I think that's one of those ones that you should have locked and loaded almost every day. I mean, it's the constituent parts for collagen. It helps stimulate collagen rematrixing. Looking to ensure that it has types 1, types 2, types 3. Type 2 is more for like your articular cartilage, but having all three, why not? Why, spend the extra money, do a little research, get all three. And I'm thinking, because my protocol in the morning is, I have my coffee, and the last shot of coffee, I'll add in, I'll heat it up one more time to get it, warm so that it'll mix better with the collagen. Then I throw a spoonful of that collagen protein in there, and thinking that adding some turmeric to it might actually be like a great way to stack it. Now, taste wise, it's not going to be great, but hey, it's a shot, right? That's the whole point. I don't like to adulterate it. Generally speaking, the collagen protein doesn't really have a flavor to it, but I can tell, and it kind of ruins my coffee. That's why I save for the last shot. And so adding a little turmeric on there, now all of a sudden you got a real potent anti-inflammatory beverage for the morning to start your day off.
Indeed, yeah, it's tough for me to ever mess with the just black coffee. Don't want to put anything in that for the morning, but to each their own. However you get it in, I think that getting it in every day is important. And then for the fitness modality, I think that to be determined with the full range of motion, which what we were looking into with pull-ups and push-ups. I was really interested in doing a full range all the way down, all the way up. If you feel strain on your joints, I think that what I'm picking up on is there's a lot of literature out there and just questioning the the presuppositions that you have for your nutrition, for your fitness modality, whether that's, oh, everything has to be at 90 degree, or if I'm doing a chin up, it has to be all the way down, all the way up. And if I'm not doing it all the way down, all the way up, then that's a problem. Well, question, okay, how would this occur in nature? And what muscle group am I really targeting with this fitness modality? You know, not just taking the presupposition for its face value. Like, is it chin up always all the way down, all the way up? Or am I doing more damage to my joints? And could I still get a good exercise by just doing it partially down, partially up? If that's what feels better for my joints. Like, the cave people wouldn't have had a set of, oh yeah, chin up, you have to go all the way down, all the way up, because that's what they do in the military. That's not, that wouldn't be natural or in keeping with, they would go with what felt like a functional strength building movement. And I'd say for that, the cave implementation is do what works best, just do. You know, push-ups, all the way down, all the way partially, yes, both. Do what works best for you. If you have limited mobility or joint pain, or for me this week, you know, I've been wrestling with issues with my elbow, so I did them on a bench in kind of inverted, but I still did them. I did them at the range of motion that felt comfortable for me and that didn't cause pain or discomfort. So just listening to your body and knowing that, look, doing just kind of like what we talked about last week, the important thing is not negotiating your fitness. Okay, well, you're injured, do something different, but don't make an excuse not to do it. Just do something that works. And I think that we could probably dig deeper and find out what are the best or fitness modalities for like static holds or things like that. Yeah. I think there's some benefit to static holding.
Well, 100%. I mean, there's a lot of benefit to it, especially, I mean, isometrics are great to help you. I mean, that's something I was going to recommend if you're having issues where you can't train certain things, but you still want to get work. I mean, isometrics are a great way to, one, you know, train your body, but two, also it's proven to stimulate healing in the collagen in your joints. And I think about, like, in nature, you know, how many straight bars are out there that, you know, caveman was pulling themselves up on? Probably not a lot, probably zero. Yeah. You think about, you know, like when you climb with a rope or like any of these like pulling motions, oftentimes it's not straight above you and your hands both equally, you know, like spaced out, and like never in nature. Right? How many times would you actually do that? Maybe if you're trying to grab something, pull yourself up, you might do it one time. And you think about us trying to do, you know, 4 sets of 5. I mean, that's a lot. And you think about the amount of weight, like I'm an almost 200-pound guy. I'm dead hanging 200 pounds, you know, how many reps? I mean, just think about the amount of force and resistance that you're placing on these joints and such. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, it is, but if you just go into that and you overtrain, you're probably bound for injuries. So I think, like, how are you periodizing? How often are you doing this? This is something you're doing every other day. Well, yeah, I mean, just like with push-ups, man, you keep doing them every day and you're not balancing out other, you know, muscle groups and what you're going to develop all these imbalances, and you're going to eventually have some injuries. So it's like, you got to rotate it properly, right? You got to, you know, rotate your training, and just keep in line with, you know, what would the ancient man do? Well, he's probably not going to do 1,000 push-ups a day, right? But maybe a few days, not a bad thing. Or maybe do a few, you know, 2 days a week or something like that. So thinking about just really being mindful of your periodization, how often you're doing a certain movement pattern. And yeah, there's so many. I mean, think about just the pulling motion in general. As I said, like, there's not too many times in life where you have to pull something above your head. I mean, it's just such an awkward, weird movement pattern. So naturally speaking, you know, yeah, the pull probably wasn't ubiquitous in cave days, but I sure love them, man. They're a great way to get your body in shape. That's for certain. So I still think it's a great tool to use. I just think you have to be mindful of that you're doing almost a maximal strength type exercise, and you generally wouldn't train max strength 3-4 times a week. You just wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but it's cool to know that, you know, apart from any kind of formal fitness equipment, that just a bar or just a tree doing chin-ups on a tree or something like that would be, it feels like a primal experience. And that motion of like climbing a tree, I think that's kind of what mimics it. And so maybe trying to integrate more of that into your fitness modality is just go out and climb trees instead of just working on making sure that you're doing 15, 20, 30, 40 chin-ups in an exercise and all the way down, all the way up, but just kind of mimicking the natural movement and trying to do that as much as you can in just your daily routine rather than focusing on the formalities of what a chin-up is. That's one thing that I'm challenging myself with, is just how do I stay fit without putting too much formality in my routine and thinking about, well, do I have to do a push-up all the way down, all the way up, or a chin-up all the way down, all the way up, and trying to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to approach it. I mean, I'm a big proponent of full range of motion, but that, of course, is different for everyone, right? And I mean, we all have, like, I have a bum shoulder a big tear over here, a repair, and so like my full range might be slightly different because of that. And, as we age, get older, and we go through different wars, whatever that might be, your body gets scarred up a bit, and so it changes the dynamic, and that's totally fine. You just have to work out, in a way that suits you. And I'll have to send you a video of so me and my son, we like playing around on trees in the park. So there's we got some videos of us just hanging around on tree branches and climbing, and there's not a lot of tree branches that are 90 degrees, a perfect 90 tree. So there's always going to be some asymmetry there, which is kind of fun. And climbing trees is a bit hard, man. I was trying to be a cool guy and show my son how to climb a tree, and I'll be honest, I didn't make it.
Yeah, I used to take my daughters out climbing trees a lot, and that ties nicely into the mentality that we've been talking about for about a week and a half too, and that's just the image that you portray to the people that are most important around you, and the people that maybe are watching you and saying, I want to be like him, or I should be like him. Your offspring, clearly one of them. I mean, my son does a lot of that stuff where if I'm fixing something in the house, he'll come and bring his little fake toolbox or his little toy toolbox and put it next to mine and try to emulate some of that stuff. And that's cool, that you're doing that with your son. And I've done that with my daughters too, and just demonstrating that strength. And I think that's something that's often overlooked in terms of like either fitness or mentality or even nutrition, is that people are watching you. A lot of the times it seems like we're doing it for ourselves, but we never think about the fact that we're doing it for people that are around us too. With the nutritional modality, that's one that hits home to me. I mean, the first time that I ever thought about what I put into my body and the impact that it has on me was when my daughter was diagnosed with celiac disease. And it was, okay, well, gluten like severely messes her up. And I wanted to demonstrate to her, well, you can still live an active, healthy, normal life and not put gluten into your body. But so every time when I'm educating her on nutrition, I think about that. And I think about her being mindful of the things that she puts into her body and what that does. This is why we do this. This is why we do that. This is why, it's important to eat whole proteins and these kind of things. And it's the same thing with the fitness modality, like you just mentioned. It kind of bleeds into the mentality piece, which is all tied together, the mentality and the nutrition and the fitness. And that's why we discuss all three every single week, is that, there's the reason why we do what we do is a holistic type picture. It's it's the fact that you are a person that has an impact on the people that are around you, and most notably, you're exposing that to him early and often. Not just saying, hey, yeah, let's just go just eat some ice cream and sit around. It's, yeah, let's do some fitness. And that's cool to see you do that. And that you're shooting me videos of you doing chin-ups and doing sit-ups and doing like that kind of stuff with your son. It's like, that's that's stuff that he will never forget. That's stuff that he'll know it's non-negotiable. We talked about that last week. Well, fitness, non-negotiable. Yeah, there's a time for ice cream. There's a time for indulgence. There's a time for this. But the baseline is, yeah, there's a tree. Daddy should be able to climb that tree. If daddy can't climb that tree, what kind of daddy? I mean, if your son had something valuable up in that tree that he needed to get down and he couldn't do it, who's he going to rely on?
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff, man.
We've had to throw a few Nalgene bottles full of water to break down some footballs and such from trees. So we find ways to get up to that tree without getting there.
Problem solving, yeah.
Yeah,
problem solving is powerful too.
But yeah, man, I agree. I couldn't think of a more important job than like being a father, being a parent, and the fact that you're essentially training the next generation. You're training the next like set of humans. I mean, that's what it's about, is getting your genes to that next generation. I mean, from a biological perspective, that's like number one, procreate and make sure those motherfuckers make it, and make sure they're leaders, make sure they're contributing to society, make sure that they procreate. And there's so many other things you could add to that, but they're watching at all times. Like, you are their model of what it means to be a man, to be a human, to be a mom, a dad, whatever, a brother, sister. They're watching. They're a sponge. They're taking it all, and they're building models, predictive models of what will happen next, and what their roles are, the prescribed roles, cultural roles, the mores. I mean, everything. So you think about the things you do when you get mad, you fucking, you throw something, and it's like they're watching it. It's like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do when something doesn't go my way. Okay. Or like, oh, dad's eating fucking cake all the time or drinking beer all the time. Okay. So that's what daddies do. That's what they do when they're stressed out. And it's like, no, you gotta be, it's important to be mindful of those things. And like, I'm not saying have an image around them, but I think you should, in a way, like, yeah, maybe you should, in terms of like, be a better person because somebody's watching. And that kind of ties in what we're talking about, the form of the gym, the 9 degrees. Well, why do we do that? Well, maybe at the gym, you're afraid somebody's going to see you doing it the wrong form and judge you. Nobody wants to look like a beginner at the gym, right? You want to look like a professional. You want to look like you've been doing it for a while and you're not a greenhorn. So like at all times, like, people are watching, like it or not. And I'm not saying you need to do things because people are watching, but know that what you do has an impact on everything, on everyone. You are a part of like that cultural tapestry of the energy, if you will, of like, it's important. Not just with children, but your overall environment in general. And that's something I think about often, and probably not enough. But when I do something in public, or get mad at somebody because they cut me off, or do something I don't agree with, it's like, hey man, that energy I put out there, that fuck that guy, or that reaction is like, well, other people watch me, and what are they thinking? And it's like, if they think I'm an asshole, I'm doing it wrong. And a lot of times I probably am an asshole. It's like, okay, let's take a breath and think about, like, what am I putting into my environment right now? I'm putting out asshole vibes everywhere. Not good, because that stuff is contagious, man. I firmly believe in like the contagiousness of a smile. And I used to experiment with this all the time. I used to work downtown San Francisco, and I like walking around with a bit of a smirk on my face. One, I like San Francisco. Back in the day, I liked it. I enjoyed being out there. I felt like an honor to be working out in the city, and one of the most eminent places in the world. People come from all over the world to see San Francisco. I got to work there. I got to walk down Market Street and look at all the buildings and all these well-dressed people, professionals, people that important jobs and doing important things. And it was kind of a walking meditation, but it kind of put a smile on my face, even if like my job kind of sucked or whatever that was going on. But I was kind of glad to be there. And I remember, like, you smile at people, a lot of times they'll smile back at you. And I've had people ask me, what are you so happy about? Like, off the street, just would ask me, why are you smiling? And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know. Maybe I did know, but I'm kind of taken aback by a stranger asking me that. But that stuff is contagious. And same thing with like a shit ass attitude. When you walk around, you're fucking mad, and people pick up on that stuff, man. And then before you know it, you start accumulating, like, because of that, you'll start to see, you'll focus on more of that negative stuff, and you'll receive it from people. And now before you know it, you're having a bad day. And that's like an accumulation of 3 bad things in a row. Now it's a fuck day, or a fuck. If it was this week, it's like, oh, my year's starting off shitty. And you might be able to like jump to those conclusions and generalize. And you got to ask yourself, like, what are you putting out there? Independent of the things that happen, like, what you put out is really important for children and for just your community.
Absolutely. Like, what are you putting out there? Period. I got asked a really important question this week, and that was, can you think of a time where a stranger completely changed your life? And or somebody that you didn't know completely changed your life. And I was thinking, yeah, all the time. But it happens to be resources or people who are creating things or people who are carving out their own way of life that I'm inspired by. And so if you think about what does that mean and boil that down or peel it back, it's that what makes the world different? You know, the light bulb would have never came if Thomas Edison didn't say, like, I need to do something different. I'm not going to continue to consume kerosene energy and lights and flame. I'm going to make something different. So it's that shift from consumer to creator. It's taking your ideas and executing them in a different way, and not just consuming and regurgitating, but actually taking what you feel will make this world a better place and putting it out there. What are you doing? Like you're saying, like, what are you doing? What are you contributing? And that's 100% important. I don't know how we ended up from climbing trees with your offspring, but that is different. How many people walk by that same tree and just say, oh yeah, well, the news or this and that, and the world or the economy or inflation or this and that. It's like, no, stop and take a moment to create something different in the environment that's around you. You know, be that person that's a little bit different, or that climbs the tree instead of walks by it and bitches about the weather.
Yeah, well, think about the fact that people are walking, and this happens a lot actually with me and my son, because we play at many different parks and we do all sorts of crazy shit at all these parks, and we're wrestling and climbing trees and just being apes. And think about just that action of me playing with my son and all the other dads. Maybe dad's running by himself, or family is walking by and he's thinking, wow, maybe I should be doing that with my son. They look like they're having a good time. That is, like, that's what being a dad looks like, like getting inspired. Like, I'm going to do that with him. That looks like a lot of fun. Or like you're inspiring, like, an instruction on how to be a dad. I'm just a small portion of it, but like, that's cool, right? You can inspire somebody to maybe do some physical activities with their son, or be physical with them. Or just spend time with them, pay fucking attention to them, lock eyes and share some knowledge under the sun. I mean, that's cool stuff. That's having an impact in your environment. Every time my son and I work out at the park, we're having an impact on our environment. And what's really amazing is you'd be surprised how many times other children come and join us in a workout, and they start doing little physical activities with me.
Wow.
Yeah, and we all, encourage them, and yeah, you're doing great. Come on, how many can you do? I mean, dude, I had a plank contest with like an 8-year-old, and dude, he almost got me too. My son gave up way earlier, which I was super disappointed. I was like, hey man, we're gonna work on that. But now I'm locking eyes with this little Asian kid. We're holding a plank together. I was like, dude, there's moms over there watching. And I was like, I cannot allow this child to beat me. So I'm like kind of taunting him the whole time. I mean, it got kind of intense,
Right.
It was fun though. It was fun nonetheless. And I'm sure some people were inspired by that nonsense.
Yeah. So, I mean, a cave mentality around this, a cave meditation, I would say, what do you say? I mean, I'm thinking that you already hit the nail on the head, was like asking yourself, what are you contributing? Everybody, I think, has that thing that they think about of, this is something that I'd like to do, something I'd like to create, something that I do differently. This year, this is the first week of the year, essentially, set apart time every single week like we do here. Look, we're not doing the Left Coast Caveman cast because we think it's going to be nationally syndicated or broadcast to millions of people. We're doing it because we believe in the project. We believe it's something important, and we're focused on creating rather than consuming, rather than spending this time consuming an hour of somebody else's content. We're dedicated to creating our own. So I would say that a good cave meditation would be, what is that thing, to meditate on that? What is that thing that you've always wanted to do? Whether that's, you want to play the piano, you want to learn an instrument, you want to learn how to do art, you want to write more, you want to read more, you want to stop eating sugar, whatever, and write a cookbook, whatever it is, to put aside time every single week for creating. If you're not right now, to actively in pursuing creation and then allowing that to flourish in your life to creating more. Start somewhere, start creating something, and then allowing that to be a impetus to create more, to dare to be different, to dare to step outside your comfort zone and create more than you consume. And part of that is kind of going back the last couple of weeks and eliminating things that aren't contributing to your path, whether that's consuming too much of news, pornography, junk entertainment that doesn't add anything of value to your path, junk food, junk relationships, whatever it is. And we'll post that tool at leftcoastcaveman.com. But just going through and eliminating and then making a conscious effort to create more.
Yeah, and by creating, I mean, I feel like it's almost like a muscle, right? The more you create, the better you get at it, the more skilled you get at it, especially if you start creating and doing more along like a similar subject, right? Where you constantly practice one thing or, you know, a group of skills. And before you know it, I mean, put in the time, you might be an expert one day, and you might be like, in the true sense, like a real influencer, and a teacher, an instructor, a sage, you know, whatever you want to call it. Like that's a true influencer right there in real life, is a professional, somebody that devotes himself to the act of creation, who by that maybe creates their own thing, or maybe perfects, or, you know, adds on to the standard body of whatever that technique or that information might be. And we all have the ability to do that. And I think from there you become a real influencer, and that's kind of a cool thing. And, you know, being a dad, you are an influencer every day. Scary.
Yeah, being anybody, you're an influencer. You got influence around people around you right now. Short and sweet, man. Banged it out within 45 minutes. I think that we dive deeper into those three pieces next week. Joint health, we can maybe get a little bit deeper into the different modalities that you can implement for joint health. Hopefully by then I'm back 100% to the fitness modalities. But wanted to talk a little bit more deeper next week about like heavy holds and just static holds and things of that nature. And we could always go deeper on legacy.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, we'll talk about what is it? Heavy slow lifting, heavy slow repetition. I think it's HSR. I don't remember exactly what the acronym. It doesn't matter. It's lifting slow and heavy. It's supposed to be really great for. And it's funny, man, because I know you do a lot of high repetition type movement, right? That's kind of like
used to, yeah,
not as much anymore, but. That what was interesting. I came across a great fact tonight I could share out just briefly, but your tendons and ligaments they're not stimulated to adapt by that movement pattern. It's like plyos or really high. And what's funny, because most of us think that if you're injured, you want to do a lot of light reps, like light easy reps. And that actually does not stimulate your tendons and ligaments to adapt at all. Yeah, which blows my mind. Like, well, what do you mean? Like that's what heavy and slow reps are the key to really maximizing collagen turnover and replacement in your body. So it's totally like it's counterintuitive to what
heavy and slow. So for the next week or two, I should go heavy, slow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And build up to the heaviness, right? So start out with like 10 reps or maybe 15 reps, and then add some weight. I mean, once again, let pain kind of be an indicator that maybe you're doing too much, and you know the difference between productive pain and unproductive pain. So, but yeah, the heavy and slow, I mean, really focusing on like the eccentric portion, which is like the lowering against gravity, and then bringing it back up. It's slow, nothing fast. You're not doing plyometrics or anything like that. You're not doing these super high reps. I mean, you want to probably end anywhere from like 4 to 6 reps, heavy and slow. In that range, about 4 to 6.
I got bands. I got heavy bands. Would that be good because it's like constant tension?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with bands, I've got like some of the large ones too. I could probably do a lot of reps with them. I don't know how heavy yours might be. So, I mean, with a band, I could probably go over 12 reps with a heavy band. So I like the monster bands, but I don't know. Maybe yours are a little thicker, so it could provide more resistance.
Depends, yeah.
Yeah. So it's counterintuitive, man, but there's a lot of literature supporting that. And it's just funny because we all believe that when you're injured, you got to hit the gym. I'll do some light reps. I'll do, 20 reps and they'll be light, and I'll do like 3 or 4 sets of it. It's like, that's probably going to end up causing you more pain and less, like more degradation in the long run. It's like, whoa, blows my mind.
Yeah, it is counterintuitive. That's what we do this, man, to continue the exploration ourselves so we can share with others what works, what doesn't. So I'll do a solid week before next Friday of just heavy, slow movement and see if I'm back in the mix and feeling where I'm gaining strength and getting good exercise again and good strength training. And because I'll tell you, it's been a bummer just, being banged up. I'm finally back to the point where my knee is working fine, so I can do cycling or jogging or swimming and things of that nature. But, us guys, we like to do the upper body too and get the strength going and, feel like you're doing something to build strength. So I'll, instead of doing any kind of repetitions, just focus on strong, slow, heavy movements and see if by next Friday, if I've noticed any kind of improvements overall.
Worth a try.
Worth a try. Well, that's good, brother.
All right, man. Well, I think that's a wrap, dude. I think we covered it all. We were efficient tonight. Last time it was like an hour and 40 minutes. So
I think it was like 2 hours. Yeah. So this would be a good time frame. 45 minutes seems to be digestible for most folks. So
I think so.
That's solid. But all right, man. I'll get it posted and then we'll touch base next Friday.
Yeah, sounds good, sir. All righty.
All right, take care.